I was so broke, I only had 20 cents left. Started the business, built it up in 4 years, 4.8 million revenue, and then it just blew up.
Igor Vainshtein. He's built 20 ventures, failed many times, but got back up more. He's here to talk about why failure is an essential stepping stone to success, how he's using AI, and why he's leaving Australia to build something global.
They created a company in secret. It felt so defeating. I didn't know how I was going to recover. I was flying from India for a work trip back to Australia, and I started hoarding inventory. I would call every supplier, go, I will buy whatever you have. At one point, I was the only one in the world that had Golf Simulator. In that 30 seconds, Google flags my account as fraud, blocks my ad account. I lost, $500,000 to $700,000 of revenue. Between US and Australia, there's a difference in how people see failure. When they found out about my 18 blow-ups, they said, I want to invest in you because you've gotten up 19 times.
Igor's definition of failure is? I'm here with Igor Vainshtein. This guy has so much to offer today. So here's the key components of what you're going to get out of today. This guy has wrote the book on why failure is an essential stepping stone to success. He's had 20 ventures, 8 of them failed, and you'll hear exactly why, as an entrepreneurial audience like you are, that you can use this as fuel to keep moving forward. The second thing is how he's using AI, not only in the business that he's successfully scaling, but how it's helping him do more things. Because I know a lot of you entrepreneurs and people who think that way have got a lot of stuff on, and people keep telling you to focus on one thing. Well, that could be changing now. The third thing is about personal brand and how Igor has been using personal brand to create more in his world and create a flywheel effect. And the last one is why he's about to move his business operations and his family to the US to grow a global business rather than doing it from Australia. Igor, welcome to Flow Zone.
Thank you for having me.
Wow, I'm surprised I did that in one take, that intro.
That was impressive. You had it down pat.
Well, mate, so much of the stuff is still fresh in my mind. You came and did an awesome session with my Entrepreneurs Organization Forum.
Thank you.
It was at a mini retreat. We were away for 3 days, and you just came and sat at the dining table with us. We actually shared food together, so we broke bread, which is a great thing for these kind of presentations, as you know. You went deep with us for like 3 or 4 hours. And amongst the tale of, your failures, which we'll get into in a minute, and how you're about to launch an awesome podcast off the back of that, as well as the cool game that we played called Entrepreneurship.
You got it.
It's an entrepreneur's version of Monopoly. So look, let's just start with a very brief overview of these 18 out of 20 failures and how that's actually propelling you into the world we're in today.
Well, the first thing I'll start is just so that people don't freak out. Like, I did actually succeed in the end. It's not just all failures. Because sometimes my wife sometimes says, you talk about failure a lot. I'm like, I know, but like there is success at the end of it. And my biggest one came with selling to a public company in the US. And you mentioned, I'm moving back to the US, which we'll cover off in a second. And I'm moving back to the US for the second time, which is interesting, right? We can unpack that a little bit more. It's because last time I moved, within 12 months of moving, I sold my company. That I expanded there. So, it was a pretty damn good move. And we'll see what happens this time.
You might be back in 6 months. Every time you want to sell something, you just go over there and come straight back.
Exactly. But I had a lot, and I had so many different businesses. And some, when they failed, they were not even that they failed from the beginning. I had a business that went to multi-million-dollar revenue, 22 staff, a consulting company I built in my 20s, and it was doing really well. And then it just blew up. Right. So I've had that, and I've had things that blow up right at the beginning. But the whole spectrum of blow up, basically, multi-million to just the beginning, whatever. And what I learned from that is some very painful lessons, but something I take on. And that's why in reflection, and I only really went on that reflection after I sold. I got a little bit over my imposter syndrome, not fully, by the way. But I looked back and I thought, what is the critical ingredient? What's the theme? And the critical ingredient was failure. Which is why I love talking about it, because I think people shy away, especially in Australia. The culturally between US and Australia, there's a difference in how people see failure. And I think it is just so critical to success. And I think people underestimate just how critical it can be.
What do you think your most spectacular failure has been?
Oh God. There's just so many. Look, probably that, losing a 5 million revenue business at 26, 27, literally overnight. It was New Year's Eve. I lost it on New Year's Eve.
We're going to have to unpack this one. What was the business? What was the reason that it fell over? What would you do differently next time?
So I started the business when I was so broke, I only had 20 cents left in my pocket. I don't know if I told this story when we did the workshop with EO. So I was that broke, started the business, built it up in 4 years from that 20 cents to almost it was like 4.8, whatever it was, million revenue, 22 staff. I was just a kid, 23, at the end of the 27. Halfway through that growth, I had this couple who used to work for me, and I made a decision to give them 40% of the business, not self, give them 40% of the business, said, you deliver. Because I learned, this is before I knew EOS, and before I knew what a visionary is and what an integrator is, right? I wish I knew that back then.
Entrepreneurial operating system is EOS, by the way.
Yeah, thank you. And I gave them the business to basically be the integrator, to be the implementer and deliver the projects, and I would go and sell. And about a year and a half after that, the business, that happened when we were doing about 1.6 million. We're over 4. The run rate's unbelievable. We're doing over $500,000 a month. And these guys are like, hey, all you're doing every day is having coffee.
Yeah.
And they were double my age, right? And I'm like, yeah, it's called sales.
Yeah.
You see how they were billing 500,000 a month?
Yeah.
Right? That's because I'm having coffee with people
B2B,
that write
right?
the checks that make them $500,000 a month. That wasn't good enough for them, though. And so they created a company in secret.
Mm.
And 2 of my biggest clients, they had friends working with those clients. So one of them was Rio Tinto, which is pretty big company, right?
Yeah, they're not a baby.
No, and the other one was, if I remember correctly, was Blue Scope Steel.
Mm-hmm.
And on the New Year's Eve, 2006, if I remember correctly, I think it's 2006, those guys, their friends, rewrite the POs, purchase orders, from my company or our company to their personal company.
While they were still in it.
While they were still in it.
shareholders.
Still shareholders, still directors.
Yeah.
And they did that.
I've had something so similar to this happen.
And you know what the most amazing thing is, that even now reflecting back, they didn't think they were doing anything wrong.
Mm-hmm.
They were like, they're the victims somehow in all this. So in any case, so 1st of January, I have 80% of my income gone, but 80% of my costs still in the business. That was pretty bad because, I was young and I'd just come out of this terrible situation I was in where I lost everything before. And just to get hit, get hit in the guts like that again was really tough.
I imagine that, what was going through your mind when that happened?
It's very hard to imagine how you're going to react to that, which is, funny enough, a segue to kind of how I built the game and how I built the podcast and all the things I've done since. So I want to, we can come back to that. But it felt so defeating that I do remember just being paralyzed, staring into the bottom of an ice cream tub. That was my drug of choice. Luckily, not alcohol. Just pumping through those tubs of ice cream.
You felt like alcoholic ice cream, though.
Oh, yeah. It's funny, yeah. But, I would just, sugar was my thing, and ice cream. Still is, by the way. So just staring into the abyss. I didn't know how I was going to recover. I didn't know if I could ever recover. But what do you do? One step in front of the other. And I didn't know that's what it takes. It was just the only thing I could think of what to do. It was this kind of darkness, and then just the only thing I could see was the next step. Like where can I put my foot?
So what, for anyone who's found himself in a situation like this, what was your next step, literally? Like, what did you do to kind of get by? Because you were going from having 80% cost with no revenue left over. So that's not just like a business that didn't work out. That's now a burden that you could actually end up, getting sued, going bankrupt, whatever it might be.
Exactly. And what you just said is actually that. It is, you ask yourself the right question, which is, how the hell do I not go bankrupt tomorrow? And the very first thing you have to do is stop the bleed. It's like a wound, right? They say you got to stop the bleed. And so naturally I went to that. I don't know how. It's, I have always read through since I was like 18, I read a lot of business books. And so maybe I had that instinct that was built in me that I didn't realize was there. But my instinct was to stop the bleed. So I had to lay off people. I had to cut down costs. There was a myriad of things. And it's funny enough, at that point, I started doing a Masters of Entrepreneurship and Innovation at Swinburne. And I met some people there, and I was looking for advice and all those things. In the end, I ended up remortgaging my house, the family house again, pulling equity out and hiring a better team to go and grow the business. And I spent several $100,000, probably $400,000 to $500,000, rebuilding, hiring the people, and going again. And within probably 3 months after that, I ended up getting $750,000 worth of contracts with a couple of. I remember there was one steel, there was Alcatel Lucent, and there was one more which I can't remember now. I got the contracts, and it sounds like a happy story. And then this little thing called Lehman Brothers happened.
Oh, the collapse.
The collapse. And then
Yeah.
everyone literally in 1 week. I
That's
had all-
GFC, right?
That's the GFC.
Yeah.
There was 2008, right? March?
Yeah.
Between March and September 2008. And all three called me in the same week and canceled the contracts.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you one quick story from that. It just teaches you that you just don't know what's going to hit you in those moments. I had a guy that worked with me back when I was still employed in my early 20s. So someone I've known for 5-6 years at that point. We worked together for all that time. He was working for me as a contractor. So he was, free, like a full-time contract. And we were about to start this project. I think it was Alcatel. And I called him. I said, listen, they just canned the project. And this is someone I was one of my best friends at the time. And he said, well, I don't care. You owe me this contract. So, but there's no money coming in. He ended up suing me for the contract.
You get the work done.
I'm like, there's no work.
Yeah.
In the end, I had a great lawyer. It's actually, I call her my mother 2.0. She's my mentor. She's the most amazing woman and a lawyer in Sydney. I had to pay him $4,000, $5,000, first week or two of notice or whatever period. But it was just, again, just when you think you're down, you just get kicked by someone you consider one of your best friends. You just never know.
Well, yeah, there's a couple of lessons to take away in that before we jump on to some stuff that you've been building. That, like, what I've picked up from that is, like, first of all, there's always something that can be done in the next 90 days to get you to the next horizon. So in your case, it was stop the bleeding of, expenses that aren't necessary, such as people and overheads when you don't have a lot of work on, and going, upstream to suppliers that might be about to invoice you and say, hey, look, I'm going to pay, but I can't pay straight away because I've just had this happen. Mm-hmm. And the more human you are about that, the better. But the other thing is that I noticed, just when you thought you're already down, then you go down further. I think there's something in that, you're not actually down as far as you think. So when you think you're at the worst, you're actually up a little bit because there's still further to fall.
There's a new rock bottom where, even when you think you've hit rock bottom, there's always a new one.
But, here we are today and you've had incredible success, particularly in your golf simulator business, right? Where it's a vertically integrated supply chain, basically. You've got all the equipment that someone can go and set up a simulator, make a business out of it, and then go and on-sell parts or lessons or whatever that might be. So talk us through how you set that up and then sold it to a public company in the US.
Yeah, so that business started off by complete accident. And in fact, so many of my businesses kind of start off as accidents. So I was working at the time as a consultant, so trying to pay back some of the debt that I had accumulated through all these blow-ups. And I was working at Australia Post. As a consultant, I was in the office of the CEO, basically looking at the portfolio of projects, $2.5 billion portfolio of projects, and just making sure they don't screw it up too bad. And we were in Exhibition Street here in Melbourne, in the city. My friend, I met through another friend, I met this other friend who's now one of my best friends. He's a mad golfer. To this point, I've never even, I played golf a few times during college, right? Was not a golfer. He's like, you'll love it. Come get some lessons. I'm like, it's for old people. I'm like, no. Anyway, he convinced me to go have some lessons. We went to this place in Richmond that had an indoor golf center. So it was simulators. This is 2010, so early days of simulators. We went and it was going out of business. And my friend's like, hey, it would be great if we could, this is a great business. We should just buy it and for sale for next to nothing. And we should do something with it. And I thought, you know what? In the building where I'm working, or one of the Australia Post buildings, there's a massive retail space, 650 square meters, I think. Ground floor, that was for lease. I said, why don't we open it up there? It'll be amazing. Long story short, we ended up opening. We had it for 5 years. It was a disaster, overpaid, blah, blah, blah. And I actually left my IT career to build that and made no money for 5 years. It was a shit show. And then I wanted to get out of it. And so I told the guys, I want to do my own thing. And so we had a little bit of a few tough conversations, so I sold my shares to them. But we didn't talk for about maybe a year after. It caused a bit of a rift. We've come back since, so happy ending. But I wanted to open an indoor golf center that had no staff, like those 24-hour gyms. Remember when they were going massive, when they just kind of started in Australia?
Yeah, definitely.
So I opened
time and all that.
That's it. So I opened the first indoor golf center, as far as I know, in the world, that had no staff. There was near my house in Elsternwick. And it did really well. And then I opened another one in the city. And it totally flopped. And I borrowed another $100,000. Here I am again, more
The
debt.
one did
whatever.
well, one didn't. What was the
What?
difference?
So one was on the street level,
Yeah.
and the other one was 2 flights of stairs
Right.
in the city because the rent was cheap, and it was cheap for a reason.
Yeah. Someone knew about foot traffic in those kind of like impulsive things.
Yeah. So that was a bad decision. So that business basically went under within 3 months, and I had all this equipment that I bought to put in, and I thought, what am I going to do with it? So the other thing that happened is I would charge $15 a week for people to use this, and it was so cheap. It was crazy cheap
$15 a week to use what?
to use this golf center or go in and practice hit as many balls as you want.
Really? For
Yeah.
$15, you can't even hit
$15 a
one
week.
bucket for that at a driving range.
Not even these days. Like I think Albert Park's like $27 now, right? So it was super cheap, and I would have people call me all the time. People wouldn't even would be too lazy to figure out where the on button. There's one button on the device, and they would be too lazy to press the on button. I had to I literally bought this machine that my guy from Philippines could remotely it would do bzzz
like
and press the button like an electronic finger.
A remote finger. Yeah.
I'm like, looking back, it's just so dumb. But it's an important point. When my second place went out of business, I put all the equipment up on Facebook Marketplace. This is 2016, 2017. And within about a week, everything got sold.
Mm.
And the cool thing is, everyone got sold. All these simulators got sold. And I didn't hear from them for like a week or two from the people that bought it. I'm like, that's interesting. They figured out how to use the damn thing. And so I ordered a few more from the US and I put them up on Facebook Marketplace and I sold those.
Mm.
And again, no one's calling me. No one's calling me middle of the night going, how do I switch this thing on? Whatever, right? I'm like, screw this. This is a better business. And so I closed down the other one as well. And I just went all in on e-commerce. I built a little, e-commerce shop and started selling. And then it was too expensive to bring the equipment, these enclosures, the screens, from the US. So I basically started manufacturing in China.
Mm.
And then I figured out, you know what? All these things are hard to put together. I love, I was too broke to buy normal furniture. So I bought IKEA. And I'm like, I really like how you could put together, and I don't actually like putting IKEA together, but I like the concept.
You like it's possible.
Exactly. That's right. It's infinite possibilities. And so I designed something and I put a patent on it that made it really easy to put together. At the time, I think most things would take me maybe 2 people, 4 to 8 hours to put together. I had video on my YouTube channel where I by myself did it in 14 and a half minutes.
Right. Wow. Yeah. Well, that's, people love speed when it comes to, especially if it's something impulsive. Like, I want my own golf simulator, but I want it now. Like, can you get it to me tomorrow on Amazon Prime? And can I have it up in 15 minutes? And that's like part of your brand promise, I suppose.
It was. And so, but funny enough, I kept the same brand, right? So my company was called 24/7 Golf because of the 24-hour gym thing.
Mm.
And then I just kept that brand for the e-commerce business. And that's what grew. And so that started growing and it did well. And then COVID hit. And then it went ballistic.
Yeah, I was going to say that would be helpful, wouldn't it? Being able to play golf at home.
Exactly. So, especially when they closed the golf courses here in Victoria. But, it was tough everywhere in the world around golf, to getting to golf. So I started selling globally. People were calling me from all over the world. Can I buy this? Can I buy that? And I did something. I took a big risk, which is I saw this. I was actually in Mumbai. I was flying from India for a work trip back to Australia the day that India closed its border.
Mm.
And so I was in Mumbai airport and there were 5 people in the airport. I mean, imagine that city, that airport, 5 people in the airport.
Billion people.
And I flew back. I'm like, this is real. And I started hoarding inventory.
Mm.
I would call every supplier, go, I will buy whatever you have.
Yeah, and they're probably selling it quickly,
credit cards,
thinking there's a problem.
I'm like borrowed from friends, family, whatever. Like I just maxed out every credit card I had. I just bought as much as I could. And it was either, dumb luck or amazing strategy. But at one point, I was the only one in the world that had simulator equipment, golf simulator equipment. So I'd have like people coming from Germany, middle of the night, from US, from Canada, wherever. And I started selling, and that's how the business, it grew something like 500% in that year.
Wow.
And I could barely keep up.
Yeah. Is that when you initiated the exit?
No. I was growing, and I've been wanting to move to the US for 20 years plus. And every time I tried, I got close, something went wrong.
Mm.
And this time it didn't, although it nearly did. And I opened it because we couldn't travel from Melbourne, lockdown, right? I opened a 3PL warehouse in Ohio, and I started selling with a partner over there.
Just unpack what 3PL is.
So, yeah, sorry, so third-party logistics. So basically, someone runs the warehouse. I took a container straight from China, shipped it to Ohio. They unpack the container, put it on the shelves, and then as the orders come in, they print the label, stick it on the box, and off it goes.
Yeah. I'm used to hearing the term, but not everyone's used to the
That's
acronym.
true.
So good unpack.
Sorry, it's another one, TLA. You know what a TLA is?
No.
3-letter acronym.
I'm all over them, but I'm not over that one. Yeah, now I am.
New one for you today. And so that started growing, and I saw the US market. It was such a massive market, especially for golf. It has 50% of the golfers as a population in terms of the world, but it has 70% of the spend.
Wow.
Of the world spent on golf. So it's just such a massive market. I wanted to be in that. I have this thing, and I know you mentioned it early. I am very competitive. I want to compete on the world scale. So, do you want to compete in a local league or do you want to be at the NBA?
Yeah.
Right. So if you want to build and you want to test yourself and you want to see what you made of, you go for the big league.
Yeah.
I've always wanted to do that. And so when we could leave, we basically got the hell out and moved, my wife and kids, we moved to Texas and loved it. Absolutely loved it. Moved to Texas, opened up a US store end of November 21, if I remember correctly. Opened a whole new store, Bank of America, credit cards, bank account, everything's so kosher. Sliding doors moment. In that first week, we started running ads. As soon as Google hits you $1,000, it charges your credit card. Right? Pretty normal. Bank of America sends me a text. Hey, did you authorize this $1,000 credit card? Reply 1 for yes, 2 for no. Replied 1, yes, okay, cool. Thank you, all good. In that 30 seconds, Google flags my account as fraud.
Wow.
Blocks my ad account and any other related future accounts.
Even though you responded straight away.
Straight away. So, and it's winter in the US. It's the peak season for golf simulator. I couldn't advertise on Google until 4 months later. It took me 4 months to unlock. I lost, $500,000 to $700,000 of revenue.
Yeah.
And so 6 months into my US expansion, I'm like, I am literally about to go bankrupt again.
I actually had another guest on this pod that had a business that his Meta account kind of got hacked when they were at like $2 million a month spend or something like that. And he had a very similar thing. He had PE invest in his business. And they're like, we can prop you up a little bit, but we can't prop you up a lot. We need to see this money. And it's just amazing how much you have to do to adapt to these kind of things. You don't realize until it's after the fact that that's something to insulate against. Like you can't just imagine everything that's going to go wrong, I suppose.
You can't. And the interesting thing is that it was an AI algorithm that flagged it. And you can't talk to anyone. There's no one you can talk to. I was lucky that my best friend from childhood worked for Google. So it took him about a month. He found the right person to talk to and say, hey, this was a mistake by Google. And they fixed it. But it took a human in this world of algorithms.
Yeah.
It's computer says no and you're screwed.
So, okay. So there's another one there for the record books, but you obviously traded out of that because you ended up selling to a public company. And why did you sell when it was like so successful? What was your mindset around selling versus not?
So I pivoted the business to a B2B model where here in Australia was B2C. Over there, switched to B2B as a white label. And I was pitching all these companies to sell under their brand or give my solution to their brand. And basically one company bought another company. I happened to be pitching to both. And when they announced that, they said, hey, instead of white labeling your product, how about we buy a business? I had a very clear vision of what the business could be with a lot of resources. I had this vision. I had a mind map, actually, how to get to 100 million.
We're both fans of mind maps. I've got one going right now.
Absolutely. Right? So I had a mind map and I had a vision of how to do it. And it means I had to be in every big box retailer. It means I had to be in Home Depot and Lowe's and etc. But I'm like one guy with basically maxed out credit cards and no money in the bank. What these guys brought to the table, the strategic part of it was these massive resources. And so I knew it could be something very big. And that's what I pursued. And the deal we did, obviously NDAs can't talk about it, but I can say that we both shared the risk of the upside. I was so confident in what my product would deliver that I said, hey, I'm willing to stake my future earnings on this. So let's do a deal that is a no-brainer for you. We both get to share in the outcome. And it's been extremely successful. The business probably grew 10x in 2 years.
Well, they're nice exit tales when you hear that, especially if you're still tied to some of the upside.
That's right.
Like I couldn't tell you how many entrepreneurs I've met that said, look, I exited this business and now it's number 2 globally, or now it's like 100 times what it was. So I probably exited a bit early. I've certainly had those stories myself, but often when we're exiting, right, and I'd like to explore this with you, it's usually also to create some kind of space for something else, right? It's not just because we want to get out or we're over it or we're working too hard or it's just for the money. Usually there's some inkling that there's something else I could be doing that's more aligned. What was that next thing for you that you were making space for, if that's the case?
Well, it was. And in fact, it wasn't even for the next thing. It was the current thing. So I used the profits from that business as it was growing to either reinvest in the business or to invest in my other startup, which has been also going since like 2017, which is my app.
This
Also,
is Golf Track?
This is Golf Track. So it's been around for 9 years.
Yeah. So this is golftrack.app. Is
That's
it?
That's
Yeah. And I've seen this in real life. I'll get you to explain it because you'd have the better elevator pitch to explain
no
it to
worries.
me.
So basically, up to this point, up to a point recently, you had to buy a device, a dedicated device between $700 to $20,000 to track a ball. You hit a ball, it tracks the spin and the speed and the angles and all of that.
Like they have when you go to the professional simulators or you go
Correct.
to a driving range with a pro, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Right? So at pro level, at amateur level, there's different products that have been released over time. And I used to sell those products. That was my business. And I remember looking at it and going, why can't a phone do this? And that was the first question. Because we've already seen it happen in GPS. Golf used to have these devices that had GPS and people say, oh, it's very accurate. But no one gives a stuff about that now. Everyone's got phones, right? You track everything GPS with your phone. And so I back in 2017, I saw this as the next iteration. And it took many years and millions of dollars to get to a point where I could say, yes, 100% it can do it with the same quality or close enough. But that's what the phone app does. Golf Track does. You hit a ball, real ball, or a foam ball, real clubs, maybe plastic clubs. I haven't tested it actually. But basically, you hit it and it tracks your ball, it tracks your data. You can have fun with it. You can play simulator golf with it. You can train with it. You can get better.
I can tell you how far it's going to go if you're hitting against the wall, all that stuff.
Yeah. And when I showed it to you, obviously, that was like the worst shank on that day.
It was so good. It was so good. I'm like, I'm filming you, getting filmed by the Golf Track app that you got set up, and you've been belting them we only played a handful of holes, but you'd been belting them.
Yeah.
And then you get up and it's just like shunk off to one side. And like, it's all right, I'll hit another one. Shunk. And I'm like, this guy's like almost a scratch golfer or probably a scratch golfer. And he's just done 2 in a row like this. And I must be stage fright.
It was stage fright. Yeah, totally. No, had to switch the camera.
But I can say like that's pretty incredible. And like, so is that using like a video motion detector kind of like in like Tesla's driving or something like that?
Yeah, so I use the Tesla analogy a lot. Obviously, Elon Musk made a massive bet on cameras and computer vision, which is part of it. A lot of people don't forget that. They think AI and they just think of ChatGPT or Grok or whatever. AI covers a lot of things, including computer vision. And that's actually something I love. That's a particular part of AI that I really love, computer vision. There's a lot of computer vision AI technology that's been around for a long time that people don't even know exists. Facial recognition. You know how your phone unlocks?
Yeah.
That's called computer vision.
Yeah.
Right? It's computer seeing something and being able to translate it into something else. So we use, obviously, frames from the camera, directly from the camera. We process that data, and we are able to reconstruct a 3-dimensional space using 2-dimensional photographs. And that's kind of our secret sauce. And that tracks the ball as it moves and the club as it moves through 3D space. That's our AI. And what makes it hard is what we don't realize is when we see things with our eyes, same as a computer with a lens, there's a lot of noise. There's a lot of stuff that's and that's what makes it hard. So when you buy the dedicated piece of hardware, track the ball, normally it's got a very specialized industrial camera that is perfectly fit to track a white, or a golf ball or a club and whatever. Whereas your phone can, it doesn't have infrared. Most of them are infrared because that makes the ball easier to see. The phones have normal cameras. And so that makes it really hard. So that's taken so many years to develop and be able to use it in 1,000, tens of thousands of different environments. That's why I used the analogy of Tesla. I saw that, every Tesla has 8 cameras. And so those 8 cameras are always recording and always learning and feeding the data back to the mothership, right? That's the moat that Tesla has. And I've had other electric cars that, have cool cruise control, but no one is as good as Tesla because they just have so much data. Yeah. And so that's kind of what we have as well. We've collected over these 9 years I don't know, millions of shots.
I heard someone on a podcast say recently that the reason they invest in Tesla, even though the BYD and all that are coming through, is that they've got something in the order of 150,000 times more data than their next competitor.
And they know they're a data company.
And they're an AI company, you know.
Exactly.
Yeah. And making robots now,
the other thing that was interesting about that is Elon Musk himself said that he sees the car as not a car. He sees it as just a robot on wheels.
Yeah.
So now going to Optimus Prime, it's not a big leap to go, well, we already have 8 cameras. We know how to process the real world. We just put it into a different form factor.
Yeah.
Right, which is a humanoid robot.
Man, that guy
Very
thinks
cool.
on a different plane, doesn't he?
I know, man.
There's some special humans that we've had come through our time, but man, I don't know many others that have got multiple multi-billion-dollar companies and one in the order of $1 trillion.
But more so just
They're running
concurrently. But people thought it would be impossible, I guess, 20 years ago. What excites me most about what he does is just the level of changing the world that he's able to achieve. Because that's my personal vision. It's not so much about the money, and we talked about that. There's a certain level of comfort is great, but really it's like, how can I change the world? How can I make this world? I watched the podcast the other day. A guy I used to work with when I was a teenager. This is my claim to fame, okay? If he's watching, reach out. David Sinclair, Dr. David Sinclair, right? So we were, his dad was my dad's boss for like for over a decade. And so we worked when I was a teenager, earning, a little bit of money on the side. But I listen to his podcast. I'm like, oh my God, this guy is literally going to change humanity. That is the most exciting thing. I think in being an entrepreneur is not just the money, it's having the opportunity to change humanity. I think is cool.
Yeah, and I think there's so many ways that we can shape that. Like for me, I'm incredibly interested in changing the way that one of the ways that real estate's done in Australia. And I call it customer first real estate, where every customer avatar has the friction removed from their journey, and their version of a goal can be achieved regardless of how much you're getting paid off them, just by making the process better. And then, of course, that then helps the reputation of the industry, which is pretty trash. It helps the proponents who are working in the industry have meaningful careers, and then they can actually help people make better decisions and build wealth and confidence and live better lives. Now, it takes a while to reach that and to figure out where your sort of purpose is going to be. And for me, I think it took it being tested a number of times. When I had these kind of black swan moments, when I had an opportunity to exit and I chose not to, or I made a decision to go with one venture instead of another, a bit like you did when you went to the States. And if we take away the financial need to work, what remains is purpose. And we're going to align our purpose to what we're doing every day. Well, that's when you can kind of get that ikigai thing happening that you hear everyone talking about at the moment. So that's the really great, probably segue into, the US and AI, right? So I'm interested in what AI you're actually using other than the video AI in your app, your computer vision, but also in your world. Like when we sat down recently and you talked about how many things you've got happening at once. And, a lot of people would say, this guy's not focused, but you're able to now get things moving in parallel to each other without it really taking away from your core business. So what are a couple of examples of that you got happening right now?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that at a high level, right, the statement I would make is AI will make you 10 to 100 times more productive. It is your duty to figure out how to kind of extract value from that. Because it can, or you can just let it kind of go bust, but then you're leaving all this potential on the table. So I started on a journey of personal brand building about 18 months ago, maybe 24 months ago. I don't remember exactly. And one of the things I wanted to do was to really get my thought leadership, my thoughts out. How do I share myself, what I think, what content I've kind of created accidentally with the world? So some of the things I'm using, and I'll just get really tactical with it, and we can unpack each one of those. So I use HeyGen and 11 Labs. So I have an AI clone of me and my voice, and my team, and I'll get to that in a second, my team creates content of me talking the things I've said myself, but not me recorded of me. Right? So maybe in one of my books, one of my emails, one of my this, even a WhatsApp message I might send, go, oh, hey, that's a really good thought. I want to make a video out of that. And so, because the world revolves on video, so you kind of, that's my.
So HeyGen for the video part and the 11 Labs for the voice part, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And when you use a microphone like this, if you've done a lot of podcasts, you can create a voice clone of yourself. It's a piece of cake.
Yeah. Well, especially, you just need a lot of data.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And not even that much these days. And so I use that for personal content. I also repurpose content. So as you said, I have a podcast that I've recently launched. It's not out on YouTube yet. But as I record, even as I have been a guest on other podcasts, I think I've done maybe 100 episodes so far. I take that content and I then repurpose it. I splice it. I use AI to slice it, dice it, caption it. I use AI B-roll to make it more engaging and interesting. And then we use an AI tool to go and push it everywhere. So there's that. Again, I have a team, an offshore team that runs all of my social media. They run all my postings. They help me respond to messages. They flag things. They can arbitrage tasks for me or communication to me, and they're able to do a huge amount of work because I have so many networks, so many connections, so many conversations going at any one time. They're able to keep up because they use AI tools. And so that brings me to a key point that I may be contrarian. I don't know in terms of how I want to use AI. I don't have time to go and learn all these tools. Right? I am too.
That is a challenge. Like
it's a massive because and there's a new tool every week.
Yeah.
And I'm subscribed to all these YouTube channels where this is this is perplexity killer, this is the grok killer, this is the this killer, this is the that killer. Like every 2 days there's some killer.
Yeah.
No time. So what I do, or rather what I've learned from my strengths versus my weaknesses, my goal is to build a team that can use those tools to improve my performance. And so I have a team and I say, hey, I saw this tool, and I take the YouTube video and I'll send it to my team and I go, hey, learn this. This looks really cool. Tell me, or have a look at it. Tell me if you think it's worth learning. And if it is, go learn it. I'm paying you, a salary. Part of that job is to learn new tools, right? So you have time to dive deep into that. I use, there's some people I use to create AI videos. I don't have time for that, right? But to me, I want to be, if you think of a pyramid, I want to be at the top and go, I'm going to delegate the things that I feel will be most valuable to scale myself, right? But instead of spending all that time learning those tools and they're going to change in like a month or 2 or 3, I want my team to learn them so that they can kind of prop me up. And so my view is scale my time by getting my team skilled up in those tools to make me even perform. So to me, that's how I go from being a 10x to being 100x, because I can have a team of like 4 or 5 people that all have their own expertise. So I have a designer that just the other day, even little things, my daughter, my 7-year-old daughter, she has a business plan for an app. The apple doesn't fall far from the tree, right?
so hang on, she's got an app already?
So we've built an app.
Wow.
Right? So she built an app. It's pretty cool, actually. It was a really interesting idea. And so I'm like, okay, start talking to Grok and let's flesh out the ideas. So we've fleshed out the user flows and the audience and the features and the functions. And I said, look, we need to design something. I went to one of my team, who's a designer. I said, how do we do this? Now, she's full-time on my app and all of that. I said, look, I'll give you a few extra hours. Just, tell me how. And she just said, look, just take all this stuff, put it into Figma and press the button to generate. And we literally, with my daughter, we're sitting at that computer, said, look, we're going to take all this, we're going to put it into Figma, press the button. It generated an app in 2 minutes.
Wow.
And she was losing her mind. She's like, this is so cool. Like a 7-year-old is learning how to do this.
Yeah.
Right?
Wow.
So last night we were actually updating some of those feature requests. So we can, again, go take that, put into AI, create an app. There's so much available to us right now. But keeping up, I find, is a big challenge.
I think that is definitely a contrarian take. And it's something that I've been looking for, I suppose, an alternate model to just fully learning everything myself. I think in the last 2.5, 3 years since LLMs became popular with ChatGPT and the 3 series, I have been in kind of Elon Musk mode a bit. I've been like going deep so that I can develop the fundamental knowledge of how these tools work. It's kind of aligned to how I think as well, like just coming from an engineering background. But I feel myself regularly going down another rabbit hole to get some learning of something that will change again soon. And I think that's a really good point in just tooling other people or skilling other people up in the tools. I still like the idea of knowing roughly how they work, so I can kind of say, well, that's easy. You can do that. I'm just not the one with the fingers on the keys.
You're right. The thing I would add and underline and highlight it is, I think as an entrepreneur, as a leader, your job, I feel my job is to know what's important. Right? Because there's so much out there. My job is to say, I think this is really valuable. Let's pursue this. And you need to understand how it works to be able to make that decision, right? I call it, you need to know enough to be dangerous.
Yeah.
But I don't need to know the tool. What I've learned, and I don't know if you've had this experience where when you get to certain use cases, these tools absolutely shit the bed.
Yeah.
Right. The facade is this amazing thing they're going to do for you. And in reality, it just completely doesn't work.
Yeah.
Because the promise, when you see demonstrations of a lot of these AI tools, it's a particular use case that they've come up with. Oh, this is going to be great for this. But then you take that and you go, okay, well, I actually need like little things like I want to go find every Tesla on Facebook Marketplace that's, these couple of features. Give that to any of your agents. I've given it to 4.
Yeah.
They all just can't do it. Simple thing, browse the damn Facebook,
Yeah.
right? And whatever. So you come across these use cases where it completely doesn't work. Your job, I think, as a leader, is to go, okay, this is a use case where it can work. And I've had those opportunities, as an example, creating content, repurposing content. For content, amazing. I also had, keep in touch with people. I'm using AI to keep relationships warm because I have networks across the entire planet. And sometimes it's really hard to keep up. Or when I'm traveling.
Especially time zones.
And also, I'm traveling. I'm in the city for 2 days. I want to be able to meet people. It's like, again, I go to my team. I go, use this AI tool to figure out who's in this, who's in this geography, set up some meetings, all of that. But there's other tools you can use and use case. And I think that's the job of a leader, is to find where the use cases are where you get bang for buck.
Yeah. And look, something that helped me a lot with this frame of mind as well is when I've now got it scaling up in all the companies that I own or advise. Mm-hmm. It was EOS, so I sort of went to scaling up. There's a bit more depth in it, especially when there's multiple brands involved. And one of the key things with scaling up, my scaling up advisor said to me, who's been there for over 30 years with Vern Harnish, is that make sure that your team especially, and you to an extent, are doing what we call priority-led learning. Like that means that there's a million things you could learn, but make sure you're learning something that's actually going to help you get your most important goal, either a constraint that's in front of it or going for something that you really want, like blazing a new trail. So I think it could work in this way with AI in that, okay, what problem am I solving for? Because I could go and get good at a whole heap of stuff, but I don't really need to be the world's best juggler. I don't really need to be the world's best at, running a radio show. So why go and learn that tool? But if I've got something that's in the way right now, like training up team in a more rapid way or getting content out more efficiently or whatever, I want to know what the best tools are for that are working right now. I want to get an understanding of how they work. And then I want to get the team to go and get to the point of competence where they can just start rolling things out until the better tool comes along.
I absolutely agree with that. And there are tools coming online all the time. It's this use case, I think, thinking that AI can just agentically solve your, automatically all your flows and processes, I think is unrealistic. But it's a tool. You got to find the right, find the problem you want to solve and then solve it with the tool. Don't find the tool and then go look for problems.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, because when you think you're a hammer, everything starts looking like a nail.
Exactly. Exactly.
So about this move to the US, you're going back there again. Now, you said you love the US, but what's the real driver there?
I think one of the key things that I see is the possibility, just the runway you have in front of you is it's really amazing. The market size, the appetite for risk. There's two ways. One is obviously the market, and if you want to really build something, you've got this amazing ability to scale something really, truly big. And on the other side, you also have people around you that are hungry for risk. They value failure. One of the best phrases I ever heard from someone in the US when they found out about my 18 blowups, they said, I want to invest in you because you've gotten up 19 times. Right? And just that thought process blows my mind. It just gets me so excited.
That is so the opposite of Australia.
It is. And it's unfortunate because I think we have such a great environment for entrepreneurship, but we have a bit of I think it comes from UK. The tall poppy syndrome, it's kind of inherited. And so that's a big thing. And also scaling, capital raising, market size. And reality is everyone in the world who wants to build something, maybe with the exception of China, but even a lot of Chinese companies want to come to the US. Everyone wants to come to the US. And so it's just, it's like, that song, Alicia Keys' song about New York.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that applies to the whole US.
Yeah. Well, and that's the fancy side of it. What's the flip side of that, though, do you think?
Nothing's perfect. People think of US as one place. Australia's you go Brisbane, Melbourne, Sydney, it's pretty similar. They have their uniqueness, right? But it's pretty similar. US, you go to different states are different countries. And so there's no such thing as, right? There's no, I love Texas, I love Florida, California, politically, won't go into that, but it's just very different. And so you have to pick which part is right for you. But there's opportunities everywhere. and there's companies there and there's people growing things and building things everywhere. On the flip side, you have a lot more competition, right? So yeah, okay, you may think you're the best, but go and compete against. Here you might have 2 competitors. Over there you're gonna have 1,000. So it's but for those that maybe don't feel as confident in their ability to compete, that's probably a hard pill to swallow. So there's competition. And the other thing is, look, there are parts of the US that are, a little bit like the what was called the dodgy parts of the US are way dodgier than the dodgy parts of Australia.
Yeah.
And that's also, there's a little bit of a detractor. I wish it wasn't like that. But that's the package. It's the package you get. And so you have to weigh up
The
those
land of
things.
extremes, isn't it?
It is a bit of a land of extremes. And that whole risk appetite, for me, it's this realization came in the most weird pathway, which is through watching the prequels of Yellowstone.
Yeah.
I think the very first one where they make the trek from New York all the way through, and they're heading to Montana, or they're heading to Oregon or whatever, and they end up in Montana, whatever it is. But just that grit to basically where maybe 80% of the people going, died along the way. And so the people that survived, that level of grit passed on through the generation. I think that's what made that culture that way. So it is a duality of extremes that we don't really have here. And I think it's, for some, like me, like I absolutely love it. For some, they think it's crazy.
Yeah. Well, I think I'm definitely more for the meritocracy kind of world. It has been a bit of a barrier in Australia for, many ventures I've been part of, just like the governmental red tape that's kind of there to protect people, but it's really just there to help people get elected, and it's just layers and layers and layers of sort of, versions of entitlement, basically. So you're setting up a company, but make sure you go and do all these things first. And that could have actually been the startup capital that got the company off the ground. Instead, it's the startup capital that actually just burns it. Or like you get to a certain size and you start kind of getting penalized, whether it's taxation laws, whether, payroll tax, prime example. They want you to employ more people, but the more people you employ, they actually chew 25% of what would have been a good margin. And then, you're under 20 employees, there's no unfair dismissal. You're over 20 employees, there is. So like it just leads to more people getting together and doing less. And then the margin's getting smaller and just not supporting businesses getting bigger. And so, you can't work for tips in a cafe. You have to work for a minimum wage. So that cafe has to close 3 times in a day, or like close for 2/3 of the day, because they can't keep people there just walking around in case a customer walks in. So the people of that area don't end up with a cafe option. So they don't actually spend in the local community. So now the local community is less affluent. Now, so those flywheels are going on everywhere. And I think that, there's been some big shakeups over there, and, there's definitely not time to get into politics, but, you see someone like Elon going in there with the Doge.
Yeah.
And just getting in there and, however he got in there and, whatever deal he did with Trump or whatever, you could just see someone like him just ripping through the inefficiency. And as much as it's like volatile and people over here are going like, oh yeah, they're going to blow themselves up or whatever, I wouldn't mind betting they're making more progress than most places on the planet now. And it's going to be freaking hard to catch them in decades to come.
I'm a huge fan of Ray Dalio, and I think he's just brilliant, man. Love his principles, love the books he's written. I'm not sure I agree that the decline is coming the way he's sort of predicting, because I think a lot of countries are declining, but being there's the appetite for success and the hustle is so great that I think it will overpower the decline. And the problem is I don't see that hustle anywhere else in the world. Right. We'll see. Time will tell.
Well, you're going to be over there with them.
I will be.
That's for sure.
Yes.
Now, just while we've got a couple of minutes left, tell us about Entrepreneurship. I've played this. I actually got given a gift of it from you because I'm going to be on one of your maiden episodes when they get released in your first batch of how I failed this, which, by the way, guys, look out for it. It's like you might have heard of Guy Raz's How I Built This. Igor's got How I Failed This, which I think is equally as valuable, if not more. Tell us about Entrepreneurship and how we play it and how people can get hold of it. We might even be able to link it up in the show notes along with your golf app.
Absolutely. So look, as I told you, I reflected on my own journey, and I noticed how failure had such a strong contributing factor, such a positive effect. And I had another EO gentleman on my pod yesterday, and he prepared some answers about how he failed on this. But it was interesting. He mentioned just casually, goes, Yeah, when I actually started the business because I got fired from the job. Not just got fired from my job, I got escorted by security from my job, which led to this business. Now he's got hundreds of people in his business. I'm like, wait a second. That's the failure I want to hear about. Most people would see getting escorted out of the building as a pretty big fail.
Like maybe the end.
Maybe the end. But for you, it was the best thing could have happened to you. And so that happened to me so many times when I look back and I think these painful moments were the things that made me who I am, made me appreciate the things I have, the relationships I have, the friendships I have, the journeys, the adventures I go on. But the one thing I wanted to experience, because I read so many business biographies and love watching documentaries like, Bad Blood and Enron and, the Fire Festival that never happened. Like, I love those things. But you don't really get to experience them. You're an audience. I wanted to make something like that experiential. And I had this idea, why not a game? Why not gamify it? And more so make it a board game so we can sit around the table like we did Break Bread, and play the game and learn something about ourselves and learn something about each other. And so it's really two things. One is you can just buy the game, entrepreneurship.net. You can put it in the show, in the notes. But also I've started running these workshops as well as people who want to be entrepreneurs. And the thing that it really teaches you, it's like this gym that builds your muscle of resilience. And even the next level, which I love, but not many people know about, this concept of anti-fragility. The things that don't kill you make you stronger. And I think as an entrepreneur, that is the number one skill you got to have, is you got to take the things that come your way and find a way for each one of those things to make you just that little bit stronger. I think that is where the success really comes from.
Yeah. Well, it was really interesting playing the game together. Like, I was in a group of entrepreneurs, but with different risk profiles in the group. And just before we started playing, you explained how that you've been using it in corporations, like corporates, where people have just been employees their whole life, and how you bring it in to help them have more entrepreneurial thinking. But just before we started, you said, I want you to play this game the opposite of how you do business.
Yes.
Like, so if you're usually a big risk taker and you're going for double it up, I want you to be conservative. And so for me, I did take the more conservative lens, which was like excruciating. Like, when I could see how much opportunity was going on around the table, because you can trade positions with other people. So you're not just waiting for the die to go around and see how you go. Like, you can be doing deals in between with other people who have got what they think is a shit hand, a shit roll, and you've got what you think is a shit roll, but you can swap positions and you can get something out of it. And I think that's how entrepreneurialism really works. It's taking limited resources and it's putting them to the best possible use for an optimal outcome. And when you can gamify it like that and put it around a table, I can't wait to get into it with like some different style of groups, with my family, like with a bunch of friends, with some other entrepreneurs, but then to throw in some little discerning things like, okay, you've got to act opposite. It's entertaining.
And even talk about AI, one of the things I recently did, which I haven't launched yet, it's launching soon, is I built an AI agent for the game.
Right.
As a game master. So I noticed that people asking me, how do I do? What's this rule? What's this rule? You know what? Embarrassingly, I would forget some of the rules. And I just make them up as I go because I'm an entrepreneur. I'm there. Rules are meant to be broken. But I had my team build an AI agent that you can go talk to it. You can say, hey, what's this rule? I picked up this game and every card's got a, picked up a card, got a number. I picked up this card. So like even in a board game, I'm using AI.
Yeah.
So we're talking about use cases, because it solves a real problem, which is people want to know the rules, and also the calculations, you remember, sometimes can get a bit tedious.
Yeah, it's a lot of, it's like, I remember doing double entry bookkeeping when I did my real estate license and some of the business courses I've done. And I was like, it's slow, right? Now it's like, you use Xero and you can then crunch it through Claude.
Exactly.
So like to have a game master that's AI, like it's taking out the thing that entrepreneurs hate, which is admin.
Exactly. And so that's why I put it in there. So we're launching that soon, but AI is just going to be everywhere. It's just having the right use cases. And that was a really great use case for it.
Yeah. Okay, cool. I'm going to do some rapid fire, and it's pretty much freestyle rapid fire because I didn't think we'd have time to even get through it. So what I'll do is I'll start a sentence.
Go.
And you can finish the sentence in your own words. Okay. If you're a founder, the amount of hours that you are investing in learning about AI in your business per week should be
at least 50% of all the time you spend on your business.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, that's good. I actually like that answer because it's a bit more subjective to the person that's having it. Now, if you're an employee in a business, the amount of time you should be investing, whether it's personal time or during business hours, in learning about how AI can make you better in your career should be
at least 50% of what your 40-hour work you should be spending 20 hours.
Wow.
Because-
Now, if the boss doesn't let you spend 20 hours, you're spending it in your own time?
Spending your own time, because in this world, the people that would be left with the jobs, with all this disruption that everyone's expecting, if you can 10x your productivity by using the right tools, guess what? You ain't getting fired.
Yeah.
Be that person.
I agree. Like I've had a sizable offshore team in all of my business operations for decades, really. We were really early to the party on that. And there was a bit of fear initially because, automation, even SaaS was scaring some people off. But all I said is like, I just want you learning the same tools that I've got. We'll find ways to make you productive and valuable. 100%.
Absolutely.
Okay. So this one, if you're a founder, the amount of time you should be investing per week in developing your personal brand should be
A lot.
You only got 50% left to play with.
Not a lot of time, but at least it should actually, you know what? Here's how I'll answer that. You should be learning AI tools in a way that you can reuse it the same hours for personal brand building. If you're learning something, record yourself, create content from it.
Yeah.
Build it.
Yeah. Now, if you're an employee, how much focus should you be putting on personal brand in a week?
You know what? You should still be building it. Maybe not as much as an entrepreneur, but again, in this current day and age, if you don't have a personal brand, even as an employee, how does someone know that you're the real deal? How does someone know that you are a top 1% employee? You need to be able to demonstrate it. So thought leadership, which is just personal branding, is the way to demonstrate it. And it can be done in any industry or in any job.
Okay, this is the final one. Igor's definition of failure is?
Giving up. That's the ultimate failure. Anything besides that is just a lesson to be learned as you step up.
That's awesome, man. Well, Igor, thanks very much for coming on Flow Zone before you head off to the States. This episode's going to be valuable to every single avatar watching. So thanks for being part of it.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it. It's fun.
Awesome.